Welcome to Majapahit. Look at this. You even got Kopi Majapahit. This is where, maybe where Hayam Wuruk used to come and get a cup of coffee. So yeah, we're here in Majapahit. I know you've heard me mention Majapahit dozens of times in my videos. And in case you guys don't remember, it was this empire that existed from about 1200 AD to 1500 AD. And it grew up really fast and really powerful. And their influence spread all the way from like beyond Sumatra to beyond Papua, up to even like the Philippines, touching Vietnam and Thailand. It was just this massive empire. And that rapid growth was due in large part to one of the kings named Hayam Wuruk, but also to one of his prime ministers, a prime minister by the name of Gajah Mada. Hello, Ibu. Apa kabar? Yeah, so Gajah Mada was this interesting dude. He's this guy that was the prime minister during the time of Hayam Wuruk. And when he was sworn in as prime minister, he made this vow that he would unite all of Nusantara. So like basically the entire Indonesian archipelago, every island would be united under Majapahit. Here's the Kolam. Hello. Apa kabar? Baik. Dia kabar? Good. Ini adalah kolam Majapahit? Ya. Oh, cool. Ada masuk, no?
Ada, lewat sana.
Di sana?
Ya.
Cool.
Banyak museum.
Apakah kalian tahu di mana Bubat? Bubat? Di sana?
Ya.
Jauh atau?
Dekat.
Dekat?
Ya.
Jalan kaki?
Bisa.
Bisa? Berapa menit? 10?
Sekitar 10-an.
10-an?
Kan ada
Okay.
museum yang itu.
Oh, museum adalah di sana
Ya,
juga. Okay, cool. Cool, thank you.
Ke Buddha tidur.
Buddha
Tidur.
tidur.
Ya. Belum pernah.
Oh, ya, Buddha.
Tidur.
Ya, okay, tidur. Ya, di sana.
Ya.
Oh, cool. Dan saya pergi ke Wringin Lawang untuk lihat itu. Ya.
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 Di pasar.
Keren.
Di sini
Oke.
kan ada Candi Bajang Ratu, di sana ada.
Terima kasih.
Ya.
Matar suwun.
Sama-sama.
Okay, see you.
Ya.
Look at that. These are the pools that have been here since Majapahit times. Cool, keren. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you,
Eric. But yeah, this is Trowulan. Trowulan is a little village just outside of Mojokerto, which again is just outside of Surabaya. Surabaya being a major city in Indonesia. Hello, piye kabare?
Baik.
Hai.
Bisa bahasa
Hai.
Indonesia.
Sedikit.
Oh, sedikit.
Ini adalah candi, no?
Candi Bajang Ratu.
Apa?
Candi Bajang Ratu.
Bajang Ratu.
Ya.
Bajang Ratu.
Ya. Saya memang kamera saya bawa pulang. Tadinya mau minta selfie.
Ya.
Nggak bawa itu loh.
Jadi saya pergi ke sana.
Oh, iya.
Jika Anda mau pulang, saya di sana.
Kameranya bawa pulang tadi, itu lo dicas habis baterainya.
Ya. Nama
Saya
Anda?
Marsi.
Marsi? Bumi Arsi.
Ya.
Saya Eric.
Ya.
Ya, senang bertemu.
Ya. Makasih, Master.
Makasih. What a beautiful landscape too, huh? They really do a good job keeping this looking just immaculate. And then you've got this beautiful temple. Look at that. Can't go up, you can't walk up it, but that's okay. I don't want to ruin it anyway, so even if I could walk up it, I don't think I would. I want to keep that looking nice. This thing is roughly 700 years old, maybe older. How cool is that? And then you got all this, and beyond it, sugarcane. Wow. Majapahit, King Hayam Wuruk. And a great story. And like all great stories, this one involves a girl. So one day, Hayam Wuruk somehow gets his hands on this portrait of a princess from Sunda, from back west in the Sunda kingdom, the daughter of King Prabu Maharaja Lingabhawana Wisesa, or King Lingabhawana for short. Anyway, this daughter, Princess Pitaloka, somehow has a portrait done, and somehow that portrait gets to King Hayam Wuruk here in Trowulan. Well, when King Hayam Wuruk sees this portrait, he falls in love. And he's like, I'm gonna marry this girl. So he sends an ambassador back to Sunda Kingdom in Kawali. Remember that video we made of Tamparan back in the Galuh Kingdom? So kind of not far from there. Anyway, he sends this ambassador, and the ambassador says, hey, the king of Majapahit, King Hayam Wuruk, he wants to marry your daughter. And you can't imagine people being more ecstatic. I mean, for centuries, there's been this sort of divide between Java, between East Java and West Java. So when King Lingabhawana hears that King Hayam Wuruk wants to marry his daughter, he's ecstatic. This could really mend fences. This could get rid of this sort of tension and competition that's between the two halves of the island. So in 1357, King Lingabhawana, his daughter, Princess Pitaloka, a contingent of a couple hundred or so royal guards, along with, family, the aristocracy, some religious hierarchy, they all set out from Sunda lands, head up to Surabaya, and then they made their way down from Surabaya here to Majapahit. Hello. Hi. Oh. Candi Tikus? Tikus, durus? Saja 5 menit atau?
Nggak ada, udah sampai, udah kelihatan. Udah sampai, udah kelihatan, tinggal lurus, kelihatan.
Okay,
Ujung jalan.
di sana?
Ya, di ujung
Okay, cool.
jalan.
Hey. Okay, thank you. Terima kasih. Bye. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of digging this Majapahit Empire. Hi, ladies. Hi. 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 How are you? Apa kabar?
Baik-baik.
Piye kabare?
Halo, piye kabare? Api-api baik.
Api?
Kok bisa bahasa Jawa?
No, tidak. Belum.
Kenapa ya? Lama di Indonesia atau nggak bisa bahasa Indonesia?
Saya bisa berbicara sedikit bahasa Indonesia.
Bisa bahasa Jawa ya? Piye
Bahasa,
kabare?
ya, hanya karena saya menonton Londo Kampung. Kalian tahu Londo Kampung? Tidak? Oh, ya, bercanda. Ya, orang sangat lucu. Ya, ya. YouTube. Ya. Wow, nice to meet you. Senang bertemu. Oke, saya pergi ke Candi. Oke, terima kasih. Matur suwun. Sama-sama. Matur suwun adalah benar? Ya.
Terima kasih sama.
Madar suwun. Oke. Madar suwun. Bye. I love Javanese people. Wow. Look at this little village. Look at this cool old house here. This cool dude. A bunch of chickens eating some leftover rice. Little old houses, chickens wandering about. Oh, look, they weren't kidding. Look. Here it is. Coincidentally, The Majapahit sort of grew out of this relationship between, coincidentally, the Majapahit sort of grew out of this relationship between a girl named Candi, who, by all accounts, was the most beautiful woman that ever existed in Java, and a guy named Kan Arak, who was a fugitive from Kediri. They met, had children, those children became kings and would go on to be kings of Majapahit, to be kings of Demak, you know, to be kings of everywhere. Check this place out. How pretty is this? Remember that temple we went to in Sagaran village in West Java? The Buddhist place? I bet it looks similar to this. Check that out. With the water, remember it was all rice paddy beyond it. The water, this mound, this temple, kind of floating in the water. Beautiful. Hai. Apa kabar?
Ya, baik-baik.
Ya.
Nah, ini liburan
Kalian dari
Ngawi, masih Jawa Timur.
Jawa Timur.
Tapi batas
East Java.
barat.
Hai.
Nah, ini anak saya, dua anak saya.
Apa nama kota?
Ngawi.
Ngawi.
Ya,
Ngawi.
di sana terkenal keripik tempenya begini.
Oh, oke.
Ya.
Nasi
Pecel.
pecel. Oh,
Ada.
asli di sana.
Ada.
Oh, saya suka
Ada
banyak
lagi
itu.
yang anu tuh letok.
Tuh letok. Ya.
Anu ambilkan untuk kenang-kenangan nanti.
Ya,
kenangan
selfie.
foto.
Ya,
Iya.
ya, ya.
Nah, gini saja, enggak selfie. Ya mungkin mau
Ya.
selfie ya nanti dikirim.
Ya, kamu sangat tinggi ya.
Lah itu di situ. Lah kalau di sini ya kalah. Ya biar anu ndak anu gitu.
1, 2, 3.
Nah, ini.
I like it.
Cool.
Ini anak saya nomor 4.
Ini
Iya. Nomor 1, ada lagi yang
Satu.
di rumah. Ya, jadi guru.
One, number 4.
you're number 4.
Ya.
Yeah. Oh, you speak English?
not-
Yeah, little.
Little.
Sedikit, sedikit.
Ya,
So unfortunately, we got here a little too late. Place already closed. But this is like an archaeological site as well. Candi Gentong. We can see a little bit here. Oh, check that out. Yeah, you can see this is very similar to what we saw when we were in Sagaran village, if you remember. Halo Pak.
Ya,
Hai.
ya.
Apaan itu? Pomelo.
Maja,
Apa?
buah maja. Ini
Buah
simbol
maja.
dari Majapahit.
Oh, ini adalah Majapahit. Oh, wow, cool.
Ini Majapahit.
Buah pahit.
Ini namanya pohonnya Majapahit.
Oh, okay. Dan buah itu
Rasanya pahit.
rasanya pahit.
Pahit.
Okay, so this fruit does taste bitter, just like the bitter kingdom. Keren,
Yeah.
keren. Piye kabare?
Baik, baik.
Baik, mas. So when they finally arrived here to Majapahit, they set up camp right before entering the city at a place called the Wringin Lawang Gate. And they set up a camp. So King Lingabuana and his army, they finally arrive here just at the gate to the city, the Wringin Lawang Gate, in this place called Bubat Square, and they set up camp here. Look at that. The Wringin Lawang Gate. Enormous. Look at that tree next to it. That's a giant tree, and actually the camera probably makes it look like the gate is a little bit taller than the tree, but they're about the same size. It is giant, a giant gate. Check that out. That is a big gate. Wow. So you can imagine King Linggabuana arrives down to Majapahit and sets up camp at this gate right before entering the city. Sets up camp here. You can imagine tents all over this place, tents, people sitting around all excited. There's going to be a big wedding. You know, I wonder what the food's going to be like. I wonder if they got bala bala here. A lot of excitement. Well, then all of a sudden, Gajah Mada, the prime minister, he shows up and he's like, hey, I got to talk to you, King Linggabuana. Remember we said that your daughter would be marrying the king? Yeah, well, that's actually not going to happen. Instead, she's going to become a concubine to King Hayam Wuruk. And King Linggabuana is like, well, you just wasted everybody's time because my daughter is a princess. She's not going to be a concubine. All right, we're out of here. Thanks for wasting our time. And he starts to leave, and Gajah Mada, he's like, I don't think I made it clear. Your daughter is going to be a concubine. And by the way, the Sunda kingdom, it doesn't really exist anymore. It's now part of Majapahit. And that's when King Linggabuana, he kind of looks around and he sees we're surrounded by thousands and thousands of highly armed and highly trained Majapahit special forces soldiers. And all King Linggabuana had, I mean, he was coming for a wedding, so he didn't bring like an army. He brought a bunch of bodyguards, a couple hundred contingent of royal guards, but he didn't bring an army. So now he's got like maybe a couple hundred protective officers trying to fend off an army of thousands. Impossible. Well, at that point, King Linggabuana jumps up, draws a sword. He's like, I'm not taking this. He starts fighting. And of course, they can't win. It's a couple hundred soldiers, not even soldiers, a couple hundred protective detailees against an army of thousands. But they fight anyway, and the fight lasts a couple days, but they can't win. And eventually, King Linggabuana dies. And as is custom with the Sundanese kingdom, all the women commit ritual suicide. So now all of a sudden, King Hayam Wuruk's like, what is all this commotion going on up there? So he heads up here to Bubat Square, and he looks around and he sees, like, what the heck happened? Because allegedly he didn't know about any of this. This was all Gajah Mada's doing. So then he sees his supposed to be soon-to-be bride, Princess Pitaloka, and apparently he falls to the ground weeping because she is no more. Another interesting thing is, you know, I've discussed in past videos that when Majapahit finally collapsed, the Majapahit elite fled to Bali. So you've got all these, like a lot, not everybody obviously, but there's a lot of people living in Bali who are the descendants of Majapahit. Now when you look at the Balinese version of what happened here at Bubat Square, they side with the Sundanese on this, even though they're descendants of Majapahit. They side with the Sundanese on this because, you know, this was a group of few that fought many. I mean, that's the classic hero story, isn't it? I mean, even in contemporary works, I mean, Star Wars, the rebel fighting against the Empire, Lord of the Rings, you got Frodo going up against all of Mordor. You know, that's the kind of story that people, when you're talking about hero stories, that's the kind of story that people want to read. And that's basically what happened here at Bubat Square. Hi. Hello. So that's it. That's the story of the Bubat tragedy. Yeah, that story, there's still a grudge kind of about what happened there. And don't forget, this happened 700 years ago. So imagine like 700 years ago and they're still holding a grudge. In fact, in 2018, almost exactly 5 years ago to the date, of today, when I'm filming this, I think it's 5 years and 2 days ago, the governor of West Java, so the Sunda lands, the governor of East Java, the Majapahit lands, and the governor of Mojokerto, which is kind of south and in the middle-ish of the two, they went up to, they went up to Surabaya and met and had a conference to say, hey, how can we get past this whole Bubat tragedy incident? 5 years ago, they had a discussion. 3 government officials, 3 high-level government officials went and had a discussion about how they can get past a problem of something that happened 700 years ago. Imagine that. I'll catch you on the next episode. Hi, guys.